Hello and welcome to another episode of the 1.2 podcast. How you doing today, Jack?
Yo,
Is there thumbs down on this thing?
that's the best I could come up with
That's the
today.
best you could come up with today. You had a whole week to think about it this time.
What am I supposed to
Goodness.
say? Good. Yep.
It's good. I thought you were supposed to be a creative person, but
Doing well. I've done that before.
I guess I'd take that over yo, but
What up?
all right, let's move on. All right. Well, Jack, yesterday I sent you a picture, right? And I'm going to show it on the screen now. And we're just going to, let's see, as long as I can figure out how to share. Maybe I can't share it. But the picture was a car at a parking lot at the grocery store. I mean, it was literally straddling the yellow line. I mean, there was no attempt to be on one side or another. It would have been difficult to have parked more centered over the yellow line, right? So today I thought we would talk about common courtesy and civility in our society, and some of those things that maybe we could all do a little better as people. Um, and I'll start with the shopping center courtesy and etiquette. One thing that fascinates me is people who use the handicapped parking spots, right? Who aren't really handicapped. I have a special level of judgment for them. I mean, it's like you could be a druggie or something, and I would still hold you in higher esteem than those people who park in the handicapped parking spot and just get out and walk on over without the tag or any obvious need for it.
Yeah, I mean, that to me extends beyond the common courtesy discussion and into the realm of being illegal. So
Well, that's
I,
fair. That's fair.
I'll equate them with druggies if
There we
that's
go.
what.
There we go. Okay. Okay. Well, we've established that. On the flip side of it, there's something noble, heroic, I think, about
Oh,
about the person at Aldi who gives their cart to someone else without asking for that quarter. Right? Like there's this special reverence that we have. It's only 25 cents. I mean, let's be honest about what that is, right? But there's almost like in today's society where we're so, I don't know if we're just so selfish or self-centered, or but there's like this small act that people do. And when someone does it for you, you're just touched in this special way that oh man,
that does it for you.
that does, it's like this
That
guy could,
tickles you
this
pink.
this this guy could be like a you know millionaire philanthropist, but I wouldn't care as much as wow, they just gave their Aldi shopping cart to someone else.
Two considerations for you with the two examples you've brought up.
Okay.
So we'll talk about Aldi because we're talking about Aldi. So what do you do in a scenario where your child has wanted all day to go to Aldi so that they can put the coin in to the cart to unlock it from the other cart? What do you think about that noble hero when he ruins your child's day? Because that has happened to me.
So what happens then is you take the cart, you put it away, and take the quarter out so that your child. No, what you do is you tell your child, you look, that was an act of nobility and kindness, and we should learn from that example, and you shouldn't throw a fit. And now we get a free quarter that we can buy some bubble gum with for you.
Where do you find bubble gum for
I
25
don't know.
cents?
Go to the restaurant across the street.
How
They've got
old
the
are
little.
you?
No, they've got the turn machines. With the big ball, gum.
Yeah.
It's still only a quarter, right?
Maybe. I don't know.
It's true. That's
In
true.
this economy.
In this economy.
Oh, there you go.
Here we go. Here we go. So I want to bring up
Wait,
something
wait. I have
else.
one more
Oh,
consideration
wait.
for you.
That's right. That's right. Okay. All right.
So, the parking scenario. Do you
Yes.
think you talked about how bad, like you couldn't have been any more center?
Right. Right.
Do you think it could have been intentional?
It could have. And I thought about that. There's two scenarios that I thought about where this person wasn't a terrible person. The first was that it was intentional because maybe they had like a wheelchair, they had to get something out, they don't have a handicap sticker, and they had to have that accessibility on either side, a walker, something like that. The other possibility was that there was already a car parked, or that picture, if I look closely, it's next to the cart return thing, and so it's possible that there was a cart that was left out, and so they had to park over. So there are certainly exceptions or explanations for certain things, but very much like self defense is a defense to murder. I think you have to presume that it was a bad thing has happened, right, just like with murder, a bad thing has happened, there's been a homicide, and now the burden is on the defendant to prove that it was justified, right, through self-defense. Very very similarly, if you parked like that, my assumption is you're a bad person. There might be a reason why they why they did it. So
And
I'll
I,
give
I, I say that, and it's not a good reason, but I one time had a meeting at a bank, and I was early to the meeting, and I knew that the bankers that I was going to be meeting with were going to be late,
mm-hmm.
a little bit late. They'd already told me that,
Yep.
so I didn't want to just go awkwardly sit in the lobby for 30 minutes.
Fair enough.
I was coming from a different meeting, so I was sitting in my car, scrolling on my phone, and about time for the meeting to start, and I see these three bankers come back, from wherever they had been. And they, three high level bankers that drive in nice cars.
Yeah.
And they all pull into parking spots. And all three of them straddle the center lines. And I'm thinking, wow, they are terrible at parking. Like my first thought, like, how could you be that bad? This parking lot's wide open, wide open. Then I realized that they didn't want anyone parking close to their fancy cars. So,
Wow. See,
that's a thing apparently.
I'm more likely to edge up close to someone and maybe even scratch them a little bit if I see them parked like that. No,
Yeah.
I wouldn't do that. But that
Right?
that is terrible. That is
Yeah.
terrible. That is.
I'm like,
That's,
I just couldn't understand right away. Like, well, that there's a wide full parking lot. Why are these guys parking so bad? Then I realized that they're getting out of their fancy cars, and
wow.
so
Wow.
could be that.
So could, could be. So when George Washington was 16, he started writing a book. Let's see.
That was a heck of a transition. Just saying.
Yes.
I still don't know where this is going, but
And that book was called, find it here, Rules of Civility and Decent Behavior in Company and Conversation. And there's something like 100 of these rules. He keeps going. Over 100. Over 100 of these rules. Now, this is a young man. This is a young George Washington, right? This is not the George Washington we think of as president or anything like that. But it does paint a picture of a different era, right? Where even a young man such as George Washington, obviously he was educated and had money and things like that in his family, but a young George Washington thought it appropriate not just to know these rules, but to write them down and to put them in a book. So I'll just start. I'm going to just read a couple of these and get your reaction and see whether it still maybe applies today or we wouldn't do that. Number one, very first, Every action done in company ought to be done with some sign of respect to those that are present.
Okay.
What do we think of that?
Good rule.
Good rule. Good rule. Okay.
Is it followed? No.
No, no. Is it something acknowledging other people around us? Is that something that we should still do?
I mean, what sense are you saying? I mean, like a hello to everybody you walk by.
Well, well, you come into a room, you come into a gathering of some sort, right? Do you shake hands with everyone in the room, or do you at least agree? Obviously, there's size constraints to that, but
Yeah.
that
I
type of
mean, I
thing.
think for the most part.
Yeah, yeah. Let's go number two, and I think it's funny that we he went from number one, very general statement, to this one. You sometimes wonder, was there a particular reason why this one was the next one he thought of? When in company, put not your hands to any part of the body not usually discovered.
Interesting.
kind of like the kind of like the warning label on a chainsaw or something. It's like, do not try to stop blade with hand. Like who did that,
Right.
right? But like there was he had to have been thinking of something specific, right? I think it's still good advice.
Yeah, I think it's probably very good advice that we should keep our hands to ourselves, right?
Right, right. Next one's interesting. Show nothing to your friend that may affright him.
I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, though.
That one's interesting, right? Because I guess it's does that mean we're not supposed to show anything to anyone, that might be controversial, or
That's what I'm
is,
thinking. You know,
is
like
that
that would be a problem, right?
mm-hmm.
Like, are we? Let's say we discover something horrible about our friend or someone close to our friend.
Right? Sure.
Certainly, sharing that information with them would frighten
Right.
them.
Right.
Um, so, are we
It's
supposed to
interesting.
lie?
I think if you're going to show something to affright a person in general, it's probably better that that person is your friend,
Right.
right? I mean, it's a friend, you expect a different level of disclosure or comfort with things like that. So I thought that was an interesting one. Interesting one. Um, this one applies right now. If you cough, sneeze, sigh, or yawn, do it not loud, but privately, and speak not in your yawning, but put your handkerchief or hand before your face and turn aside.
I've been lowering the microphone.
See, you know these rules even though you don't know them.
Mm-hmm.
These are all right. Find some others. Sleep not when others speak. um, put not off your clothes in the presence of others.
But not off your clothes in the presence of others. What about your
Don't
wife?
don't nor go out your chamber half dressed.
I think so you want to talk about old school, new school type things,
There we
and
go.
I think this applies to a lot of different contexts. But what are your thoughts on the way people dress today versus those days?
Yeah. So I think there's two very interesting um, factors that go into this. The first is telling people what they have to do versus what people should do on their own. And I actually just had a conversation with my pastor about this. Um, dressing up for church, or
Mm-hmm.
conversely dressing down, or I'll get a little more specific with how sometimes a lot of girls dress these days, right? Very revealing, or whatever it is. It would be wrong, I think, for us to say you must wear a full length dress, or head covering, or something like that. But would society be better off if men and women both dressed more uh, formally or conservatively? Um, I think it would. I think it would. And I just, you know, I think any action that takes the emphasis off of yourself is typically a good thing,
Yeah,
right?
I think that's the key kind of distinction for me with dress.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like it. To me, it's not necessarily about the actual clothes or product
Mm-hmm.
or materials that
Yeah.
someone's wearing. It's the idea behind what it represents. My thought, with this was, church, or for example, a school dress code.
Sure.
I love school dress codes
Mm-hmm.
because,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not, to punish the child for having to wear this or that. It's the idea of everybody coming together and we're getting behind a goal and a theme, and, you know, we're not having these fights because, Susie's family has more money and she can wear the
Right.
Lululemon. No, like, we're
Right.
all together, and, literally the uniformity of it,
Right.
um,
Right.
I think can do a lot of good.
I agree. I agree. Yep. And I think now this is getting into a little maybe more touchiness, but modesty I think is a problem in our society today, in
Hmm.
general, in general, and even in churches and things like that. So again, you know, people will say, oh, you just want to tell people what to do and how to do it and what they should wear and all that. I don't think that's my place necessarily, but would we be worse off if more people dressed maybe a little more modestly? I think as a society we'd be better off. Um, but that's just my 2 cents.
I agree.
So let's, you know, are there any other common courtesies that you can think of that maybe don't really, maybe have faded from view? Things that we maybe used to do, or things that you can think of that.
I mean, something we kind of touched on a little bit with that, I think it's just an interesting note where we are historically, the whole hand idea of a handshake, um,
Yeah, yeah.
with
Post COVID
obviously
handshake.
COVID. um, that to me is just we're in an interesting period in history with, is that something that's going to come back? Is that dead? I would just say, from my personal interactions that I have, I I always like shaking someone's hand, but I do, like, it's not as natural for me anymore. Like, I do consider, is this someone who doesn't want to shake my hand
Right,
because they might just have stopped shaking hands 4 years ago? And
right,
it's just weird that you even have to think about it.
right, right. No, that is an incredibly different part of, you know, and the careers that we have involve a lot of shaking hands, right?
Hmm.
We went from, you shake everyone's hand, to yeah. There's this toss up. You look at the person, you
You
kind of make
gotta, like,
that.
read the room.
Right, right. You kind of make this eye contact, and they're looking at you, and you're looking at them, and they're kind of standing up. If they stand up,
That's it for me. That's exactly it for me. Like, you
usually
walk
that.
into a conference room,
Right,
and if they don't stand up, I'm not reaching across the table
right,
to
right,
to shake someone who's sitting. And usually it's
right,
pretty, like, for as awkward as it seems, like, when we're talking about it, like, you gotta look at each other. You can usually, it's usually pretty easy to tell,
yeah,
like,
yeah,
this
yeah,
person's gonna shake my hand or not.
right, right. Okay, handshakes. Too hard or too soft?
I
If you
would
gotta have
I
one.
would rather, yeah, I would rather be accused of shaking too hard.
See, I guess I would
But
rather.
the context, you and I probably have different opinions on this because we're shaking two different types of hands.
Whose
Like,
hand are you shaking?
no, like you're shaking probably an
Oh, sure,
older
sure, okay.
folk, and
Well,
I
I
don't
work
think
with a
you
lot
want
of
to break
farm.
someone's hand.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. So I would rather. So I kind of flip it. I would rather be accused of a slightly too soft handshake. But if I'm shaking hands with someone else, I would rather, and they overdo it one way or another. I would rather they overdo it strong, right? Because I feel like I can adjust the strength of mine
Hmm.
to someone else who reaches out and just like really latches onto your hand. Versus if I start out too strong and that person, like you kind of said, has that kind of feeble hand shake, or maybe an elderly person or something like that, I don't want to feel bad like I just crushed their hand and maybe hurt them. So if I'm
I
gonna err on the side of it, I err on the side of soft, but I would rather
weak,
someone
weak.
else compassionate, Jack, compassionate,
Right. I mean,
thoughtful.
you need that. I don't.
That's true. That's true. You need in your line of work, you've got to be strong and a go getter,
And
right?
I like to. I appreciate. I really do. Probably more than I should. Like I appreciate a good handshake. Like you come back to me and my hand is hurting. I have respect for you. Like I want you to squeeze the heck out of that thing.
Hmm. Hmm.
And
Interesting. Interesting.
when you can meet on one and it makes that sound, I mean it's like that pocket, those two
Yep.
pockets that
Yep. No,
hitting. Mm. Like I said, I appreciate it too much, probably, but
all right. Back to the list. I want to get your take on this one.
I'm
Kill
doing
no.
good, doing well with the coffee.
That's right. That's right. Kill no vermin or fleas, lice, ticks, in the sight of others. If you see any filth or thick spittle on your foot, dexterously upon it, if it be upon the clothes of your companions, put it off privately, and if upon your own clothes, return thanks to him who puts it off.
Hmm.
Jack, I guarantee the next time I see you, if you have thick spittle on your clothes, I will dexterously remove it. I just
And
wanted to
I
let you know.
will. What was the end? I will show what to you
Th-
for
thanks
thanks.
thanks to him who puts it off.
Okay. So this would be a struggle recently though. Like my children love um, killing bugs that are in the
Uh,
house.
oh yeah,
So
yeah.
are we not
It's
supposed to do that?
not in the presence of others.
Right.
Not in the presence of others. Right. Right.
Hmm.
Um, this one's interesting. Be no flatterer. Be no flatterer. Neither play with any that delights not to be played with. So in other words, leave people alone if they don't want to. You know, do we? I mean, of course, this is election season, so everybody's bothering us all the time for political reasons. Um, I don't think this one's a problem anymore. I think people leave everyone else alone. There's a complete flip, I think, in approaching people who we don't really know. I mean, we would rather just sit on our phone in a public area than interact with anyone else.
Yeah. I mean, there's evidence of that everywhere.
Right.
Right. You look
Right.
at self checkouts in stores and
Right. Right.
countless examples.
Yep. And the next one is similar. It says, read no letters, books, or papers in company, but when there's a necessity for doing, ask leave. I mean, that's we don't do that anymore.
How many times are you just sitting on your phone in a group of with a group of people? You're all sitting and scrolling on your phone.
Right. Right. Well, how many times are you in a conversation? You are literally talking to a person, and they just pull out their phone. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. And here they are, and they're just scroll. You can tell that they've just completely decided to do
I've been
something else.
texting this whole time.
That's good. I've been on Twitter, so that's fair.
Yeah,
It's now like the parking lot example. Maybe there's a reason. Maybe something in your conversation sparked
right.
a oh yeah, I should look this up, and then they're looking for something to tell you, right? But I just phone etiquette is a new horizon, a new field. I think that we need to be teaching people.
Maybe we should write a book about the rules of
Ah,
phones.
we could do a modern George Washington rules book, right?
Hmm.
We could take this one, maybe update it a little bit. Um, in college, we actually had a seminar that we could go to, and it was sort of business dinner etiquette,
Mm.
right? They took you to this place. They had a dinner. It was like a 4-course meal or whatever.
Taught you
And
which utensils to use for
yeah,
which courses.
absolutely. I know how to eat soup. How to eat soup. You do not, when you eat soup, you do not pull the spoon. Hey, I've got a spoon, right? You don't pull it like towards you because that leaves some on the edge towards you that might drip off. You scoop the soup away from you
Mm.
and then you sip it. You scoop away and then sip. I mean,
Well,
who does that these
similarly,
days?
yeah, similarly in law school, we had a meeting that we had to go to from the career center
Mm-hmm.
before we were going to do all the interviewing and stuff. And their big point was when you go to these, because all the big firms had like happy hours,
Right.
um, that you're supposed to drink everything with your offhand
That's right.
so
That's
that
right.
you're not giving wet handshakes.
That's right. Because nothing would be worse than a soft, wet handshake.
Right. And that was like, a month before COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Well, I've read, people say, oh, yeah, I gotta wear your name tag on a specific side. I
oh,
forget which
yeah. Oh, yeah.
side, but it's the one that people see when you're
I've
shaking
been told, but
hands.
I don't know I don't
I
remember which
don't
one it is.
remember
I think
either.
it's
Let's see, if you're extending your right arm, it might block it if it's on your right side. So maybe on
yeah,
your left side,
left
something like
side, I
that.
think.
I think so too. Um, when you have a knife, a butter knife or something, and you put it down on your plate, the blade should be in towards you, not away, right? There's two styles of holding a fork. There's the European and the English or American or whatever. Um,
Those seem the same, European
no,
and English,
so
but
all right, yeah. So there was the American and the European, I guess.
I see.
Let's see. American was with the right hand, and if you were cutting something with a knife, you had to switch. So you cut it and then you switch and then you eat. European, it's actually the fork is kind of upside down like
Yeah.
this, right? And then you
Hmm.
cut and then you eat like that. So, things to know. Things to know. Um, does any of that matter anymore?
No.
Well, put yourself in a management position, right? What if you were interviewing, a candidate for a job, and you took them out to lunch, and let's say they ordered like just a huge menu item, and the whole time they were just like eating and maybe kind of sloppy. Wouldn't that'd be a red flag still, wouldn't
I don't know.
because they literally told us like don't eat your food when you go out to lunch for like a business meeting or an interview
Well,
meeting.
I'll say this. So I feel awkward about, and you were at this lunch. I don't like going out for Mexican in a business type lunch setting, because when they put those chips and salsa down, it's like,
Oh, I go for them.
oh, I go for them, but it's how much should I go for it?
Oh yeah, right, right,
Are we obviously not double dipping, but are we
right.
putting,
I noticed you breaking your chips.
yeah,
So
because they're big chips, and I'm afraid, I was in not a, it was a little bit further away from me than everyone else, the
yep,
salsa. So
yep.
if I'm taking a big chip and like trying to balance this salsa the whole time, but then you run into a scenario like I did. So, you get a little bit of a chip stuck in the back of your throat and you start coughing and you can't really get out. It's like, do I excuse myself and go cough it out, or do I just try and pound some more water?
Yep. Yep. No, that's tough. That's tough. What is your ideal business luncheon? Because
Like
even
usually,
I think sandwiches are tough,
oh
right?
yeah,
They
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
fall apart.
I
Get
don't
messy.
like to to eat anything with my hands.
Right. Right.
So I hate ordering salads, but probably like some sort of salad that
Right. Right. Yeah.
has
It's and
some sort of meat on it.
I refuse. I refuse. Maybe.
What are you
Yeah.
supposed to get?
Nothing. No, it is. It's really hard. So wraps are okay.
Wraps are, yeah. I'll usually do
They
a
kind of
wrap,
they stay together a little better. So
but yeah, I'm not getting a big juicy burger. That's
right. Right. See,
I
now
was with someone.
I
I
have
was with someone once. Yeah, the
the
beard's a
beard.
problem.
Yeah.
I was with someone that got like one of those, like barbecue haystack
Oh yeah. Yeah.
burgers where
Oh,
it's
I've
got
done
the
that.
crispy. It
Yeah.
wasn't
Yep.
you, but I mean, this thing is like dripping and falling apart, and
Right.
it's just. I'm not. I don't care. So to answer the question, like, I don't care.
Right.
I'm
Right.
not judging you, but it's
Okay.
just
Okay.
it's something I notice.
Right.
I
I
try
mean,
to
it's
read
hard.
the room too, see
Yeah.
what other people order. I'm also, whenever I'm eating on someone else's dime,
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm super
without
cautious.
fail, I'm ordering the from the lunch special menu or
Right.
whatever deals they have,
Right.
and I'm making sure it's like I'm getting almost the cheapest thing on the menu.
Yep. Yep. I agree. I agree. Yeah. I even. I mean, you say read the room. If you're at lunch and there's a person who is acting too formal, like that kind of makes me uncomfortable,
Yeah,
right?
and I think read the room, but it goes both, like it goes opposite. If they're too formal,
Right.
I'm gonna bring it back a little bit. Like
Sure. Sure.
I'm gonna maybe order something a little bit controversial,
Yeah.
or
Right.
like no, we're good. Like this is not a
Yeah. Yeah.
like pinkies up
Right. Right.
lunch.
All right. I'm gonna. I found this one. Can't help myself. This is great. When you see a crime punished, you may be inwardly pleased, but always show pity to the suffering offender.
Nah.
We're really beyond that, aren't we? We're all about the public humiliation and shame, right?
Mm-hmm.
We post these things on Twitter and things like that, right? I mean, we're
Just watch the news.
that's right. That's right. I mean, we publicize this stuff. Um, maybe it's time we bring back like the pillory stocks, right? Where like maybe for some of these slightly lesser crimes, we just put them in the stocks for a little bit. Forget a fine or the little
There you
jail
go.
sentences. Let's just stick them out there, and or there was a case right where the judge had someone wear a sandwich, billboard sign or whatever, saying what they had done, and then the Supreme Court's like, well, that's cruel and unusual, and
Mm-hmm.
so, and I guess George Washington would have agreed that was cruel. So
Likely.
you know, if we have founder's intent, the intent in the Constitution, that we can see into his mind at least a little
I was gonna say you're gonna open up a whole can of worms here.
bit. um, Here we go. Show not yourself glad at the misfortune of another, though he were your enemy. That's a biblical principle in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
Pray for your enemies and things like that. Um, I like that. We do.
Also,
We do.
like, why do you read these in such a, like, we're talking about, you're like going back to the time. Show not yourself.
That's right. That's
I just think it's wrong.
I'm reading it the way it's written because
Yeah.
that's how George wrote them. You
I know
know,
it's how it's written, but I feel like you're going back in time, and
well, I am,
you know,
I am. To a better time when people were civil. Um, Superfluous compliments and all affection of ceremony are to be avoided.
see, now you're reading it normal.
This is how he wrote it.
No, you would say superfluous.
Superfluous compliments
That's
and
how you
all
were reading. That's
affection
how you were reading
of
them.
ceremony are to be avoided. Yet, where due, they are not to be neglected.
Interesting.
Let's see, in pulling off your hat to persons of distinction. Do you ever pull your hat off? Do you take your okay? Do you take your hat off when you go inside? That was an old one that people
Um,
for a long time still held on.
I do not.
What about you? Well, you don't wear one to church, I'm supposing.
Right.
Yeah.
I would never.
Right. Right.
I did have a friend's house once that it was a military home,
Mm.
and you had to take the hat off anytime you.
Mm-hmm.
The only
Mm-hmm.
time I ever kind of flirt with that is in the golf world. If you
Okay.
go into a clubhouse, if
Are you
it's,
supposed to take your hat off?
it depends on the place, but
Hmm.
generally, generally yes.
Hmm. Speaking of business lunches here, we've got this one. Let your discourse with men of business be short and comprehensive. And that's
I
actually
don't think that's.
one of the shorter. That's one of the shorter ones he wrote too.
I don't think that's necessarily always the case, but
I think there's a manner of respecting someone else's time,
oh yeah,
right? You don't want to just drag things on. I do think that a lot of meetings go longer than they should.
a lot of meetings are unnecessary.
Unnecessary to begin with, possibly, but yeah, yeah, um, yeah. So these are interesting. These are interesting, but it does, in general, I think remind us that we do live in a different time where I don't know if courtesy is simply not valued, or if the values themselves have changed, like the things that are considered courteous.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we're talking about traditions and
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
values, and it's
That's
all
right.
coming full circle.
That's right. So again, I mean, I think I would take the same stance on a lot of this that when we were talking about clothing and things like that. I don't think that we should make these things requirements or rules or force them on people. But would society be better off if more people in general tried to adhere to these? At least you are more mindful of those around you,
Hmm.
right? Whatever your values might be, whether you believe that these are good things or bad things to do. um, run not in the streets, neither go too slowly nor with mouth open, go not shaking your arms, not upon the toes nor in dancing.
I'd have a problem with the running streak then.
That's right, that's right. That's, play not the peacock, looking everywhere about you to see if you be well decked, in your shoes fit well, if your stockings sit
Like
neatly.
like
And
my
it's,
peacock.
oh my gosh, you actually have peacock.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, as long as you don't go preening yourself, I suppose. Um, yeah. So, in general, I think we've lost a lot. To bring this back full circle, to the car parked over the lines. Um, we have come full circle, it seems, and what the one interesting observation is that so many people still do um, put their shopping carts back in the cart corral,
Hmm.
right? I feel like as long as people are doing that, our society still has a shred of dignity left, right? Because there's
He
no
has
incentive.
such.
Well, because there's no incentive to, right? If you're not at Aldi, right? If you're at
Right.
Walmart, why take your cart back? You don't get a quarter back,
Yeah.
you know, much like the Packers front four. See what I did there?
Yeah.
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 So it's,
You're gonna get me fired up
there's
now.
so there's at least that last line of defense to complete societal breakdown. People are still taking their carts back, whether they're, following the rest of George Washington's rules of civil behavior. I guess we can leave that be. All right. Well, until next time, hold hold the door open for people
Be
and
good.
be good.
What is Jason Wilde always say? Take care, be good.
Take care, be good. There you go.